Welcome back, venturers. It's time for another discussion about VNs. I am MR. Importantly, I'm the older sister. And together with Tauros, we bring you the continuation of the book club reading of Geminism. Since I'm the older sister, I'm obliged to warn our listeners that today we'll be talking pretty much exclusively spoilers about the title. So if you don't want to be spoiled, go read Geminism and then come back. We'll be waiting. Tauros, if you could recap, what's the story so far?
Yes, Geminism is an interesting little tale about two girls who seem to be locked in some sort of joint happiness ritual, where they must continually fight each other to the death, where they are revived the next day, or something similar to that. And with each round won, they claim one body part to themselves. And apparently, the goal is for one of them to fully reclaim their whole body by winning over and over to claim all of their body parts. There's a lot more to it, especially with the two supervisors in charge, one strange man in each of their corners, but that's the gist of things. And so it's a very interesting title, and MR and I finished Kikyu's route. We got through about 7 chapters worth, with each, I guess you could say, chapter being one round of combat. And we've completely wrapped it up all the way to the finale, so we'll be talking about the entire story as well as any spoilers involved. Just, again, another heads up to everyone, is that full spoilers for all of Kikyu's route. So MR, what are your thoughts overall?
It feels less like Kikyu's route and more like Kikyu's perspective. So I wonder what lies ahead, because I could talk and we'll definitely talk of what transpired in this perspective, but it begs the question, how would the next one, the Shinkyu perspective, fill in the gaps? And honestly, I wonder how that would go forward. So far, with Kikyu, last time we ended on a 4th round. She was on a losing streak because she lost twice, there was one tie and one victory. So moving forward, she's more motivated, okay? It's time to get some strategy, approach it more strategically and win. I don't know how to feel about the round 5. It was another one of those as round number 3 that ended in, I guess, a draw, you could call it.
A big old suicide bomber attack.
I'm like, okay, where are we going with that?
Mm-hmm.
Because it is implied by supervisor. It was implied that she did something wrong with the pipe bombs, but I feel like that's a misdirection and it was intentional suicide.
Very interesting. I like how you mentioned at the start that, you mentioned earlier that you're looking forward to Shinkyu's route to see how it fills in the gaps. And I don't think that's quite right. I think, it's more looking forward to her route to explain anything. Because, oh my gosh, Geminism had a whole lot of promise and a whole super cool premise for several things and did not deliver on any of them. We have this super cool ritual.
I really don't like calling that routes, because I feel like a route is best applied to mutually exclusive stories that explain themselves in a self-contained way. The moment I have something as incomplete, as filled with gaps, as Kikyu's, I would presume, perspective, I need the second perspective to have a complete story. Because so far, there are so many things I look forward to. What is the deal with the Awasumi and Su Kishiro? What the hell?
We
What's
got
going
nothing.
on there?
Nothing. A whole lot of
Yeah.
history. Apparently, they've been alive a long time. They've been doing this joint happiness ritual a long time. And are we going to get any answers? Well, so far, no. Maybe, like I said, maybe we haven't read, Shinku's route yet, and we don't know anything about it. So, who knows, this stuff might turn around in the future, but all I can say is that for, Kikyu's route, and how that's kind of supposed to be its own story, considering we cut all the way to credits as an ending, you would think there'd be something more satisfying here,
Listen, in a way, the way I felt after this finale is I'm more confused than I was when I ended by round 4. Like, give me more. Then again, on the other side, okay, I resigned myself to this VN, knowing that since Taurus picked it up, the resolution will be unsatisfying. And it actually delivered on that, okay?
Okay. Oh my God.
Your curse is strong in this title.
Oh my God. Okay. So as far as the premises go, there's a few cool things that happen, and it's a really cool setup. Like you mentioned, this joint happiness is a really weird ritual, and somehow they're transferring body parts back and forth. Okay. And like we mentioned, there's the history between those two supervisors, and it never gets touched up upon. There's, I guess you could say, Shinku and Kikyo's past, and, that was a great aspect, actually. We're wondering the whole time,
that's true.
Why they're locked up in their room, why they seem to be shunned by, everyone around them, why they're hidden away. And then, you get the big twist that comes later on, in that they're, conjoined twins?
Conjoined twins, yeah.
Yeah. How they have two heads, but, one body. And so, and that's unfortunate that in some small villages and out in the country and stuff, it's like, yeah, back in the day, if there were any, children who were born with like physical deformities or, mental issues, that's back in the day, that's how it would get resolved. Just lock them away in the basement and pretend they never exist. And, it's tragic. And, that whole thing, finally seeing the context behind their past and their strained relationship, it really is tragic in how that goes down and how they're now fighting against each other. And I think this is like the one thing in Geminism that they actually did well, and that they gave it the drama, required. Mm-hmm. But even then, we still don't actually get much character, like, introspection between the two girls. For one thing, we have a small cast. We've got the two girls, and then we've got the two supervisors, and that's basically it. Furthermore, we don't actually get much interaction between Tsukishiro and Shinku because they're the enemy and they're off doing their own thing. So, like, the majority of these scenes is just Kikyu and Awasumi. Mm-hmm. And a lot of those scenes are just the basic, I guess you could say, slice of life of just them working and, Kikyo bemoaning her fate, and them occasionally going out on town and doing cute things and getting that, glimpse of her being a normal girl and stuff. We're getting so little interaction between the two sisters that it's like there's so little that the plot can develop between them. It's like
that's why I was so annoyed last time we spoke when we had finally the group meeting, the joint meeting of all 4 people, and it devolved into the misunderstanding the party. I'm like,
exactly, at the cafe. It's like finally we get everyone together and we can get some, progression in the plot. And instead it decided to focus on the two sisters getting mad at each other for how much they're banging some others or whatever. So it's like, oh my God.
Just don't get me started on that freaking point. There's so much potential of shared pain and shared sensation, and the only plot point it's used for is, oh, I'm feeling horny because my sister doing loot shit. Like,
just the shoehorned arrow stuff, and it's like, oh man, come on, what are we doing here?
can't it be done more strategically in those, I don't know, let's say in the fights to the death you have?
So, exactly, because then the whole fight to the death doesn't ever really get much focus either. Like, the fights themselves are surprisingly short, or, not that developed, which isn't always a problem, but it's just the entire time. There's not much structure or length to these fights. They're just kind of over and done with pretty quickly.
And my favorite fights were the ones that you have an element of strategy, of battle of wits, trying to outwit one another. That's why round 4 was so good with the stun gun and an outmaneuver into the boots with stars. Like, okay, that was clever. And since then, the round 5 was apparently Shinku decided, you know what? Let's end it all. Let's go with a bang. I'm like, On the round 6, it was all about a standoff of two girls with guns, and one shot and the other didn't. Okay, you could say, okay, there's some emotional tension, and maybe Shinku wanted to prove something, maybe, but ultimately the battle was, okay, one shot, one kill.
And again, it's supposed to be a really emotional moment to highlight all the strained relationship the two have, and they're both struggling with what they truly want and what they're willing to do to win. But again, we get so little plot progression involving the two girls that a lot of these, developments between the two feel forced. Exactly, just like that Mexican standoff. How it's really supposed to be dramatic between the two of them, and they're willing to shoot or not willing to shoot. But it's like, I feel like we're really getting forced a lot of this, this character depth.
Yeah, and I'm kind of wondering if I'm reading too much into it, because one of the consequences of that Mexican standoff is Kikyu doubting herself, because she did pull the trigger. She did shot her sister. Does it prove that she's weaker? Is the Shinku more principled one? Like, that's the first time she had clear doubt in her mind that she's the more responsible elder sister, right? Like, but at the same point, I'm reading too much into that. Is there something deeper? No, because for the next round, that seems to evaporate, and both don't have any reservations whatsoever. So I'm like,
exactly. Like, I would have loved to have, if the story went deeper into that, about the resolve between the two of them and what it truly means, but we never got that. Instead, God, the frickin' last round now turns into a romance story between Kikyu and Awasumi, and I'm like, where the hell did this come from?
Oh, that was so hilarious. This is the last round. And let's look at the checkboxes, okay? Okay, Thomas, listen. We hadn't had much ace scenes, despite being around shit. We need to show here some of those. And then, fuck, it should be something about romance. So I guess Awasumi will declare that he wants to marry her. Okay, we go now. Like, what the fuck kind of progression was that?
The sad thing is, like, there was some build up to it. It's, at first, you get that classic
Aquarium
setup
nice.
of yes, absolutely. At first, there's beginning of the girl thinks, oh, he's scary, and then the more she gets to know him, it's like, oh, actually, wait, he's pretty, admirable or whatever. And there were things where they got closer, and we mentioned before how Awasumi seemed to care about her in his own unique way. And then they had that whole aquarium date, and it's like, oh man, he's really trying to help her, live like a normal girl, doing cute things with cute clothes and all of that. But I never saw that jump to it being romantic. It was like they were building up their bond. I really like that, how they had, a little bit deeper understanding of each other, and the admiration was there. But then it's just like, oh no, it's marriage time. Okay, they're professing their undying love for each other now.
And I can't even accept that. Like, okay, spur of the moment, emotions are high, especially since again, in a very edgy way, Kikyu recovered her own abdomen, but didn't have satisfying scene with Awasumi, I get that. Maybe there was something there. Okay, fine. But it's still so weird that now finally this is the goal. Okay, not only I want to reclaim my body, but I want to get married, like out of nowhere. Like,
He's like, I want us to fulfill your wish together. I'm like, what the hell? Where is this coming from all of a sudden? I did not feel like there was any of that budding attraction or intimacy towards each other. I don't know, man. I did not see it. So
again, I'll push it back because they had plenty of moments, but the jump from I like him to I want to spend the rest of my life with him was way too big out of nowhere.
Exactly.
Let's recap. Let's recap the way they interacted. Okay?
Yeah.
Because they kinda flip-flopped. That there were moments that she warmed up to Awasumi, and there were moments that she expected more of him. So, for example, to stand in her defense, but he didn't. He had that very detached, aloof, stoic nature, and she was annoyed at that. So they flip-flopped between those. And he tried to help her mood by going on a dates, maybe hanging out with her and talking with her more, and she warmed up to him. Okay, fine. There was subtleties there, but there's a clear difference between subtle and you know what the next step is. Let's get married. Like what the fuck?
Exactly.
Out of nowhere.
Because there wasn't anything romantic ever beforehand. Like you mentioned, there was plenty of setup, like that aquarium, scene. That was great. That was a really sweet moment for everyone involved, right until the H stuff started, and I was like, okay.
Obviously, Geminism couldn't resist the temptation of saying, you know what? You haven't been reminded about sensation link of one sister feeling the other, so let's ruin the aquarium date right now. Let's make it the most awkward point in the story.
That was kind of surreal as she's going on that stuff while Awasumi is giving some rote, literary encyclopedic knowledge about goldfish. While she's all moaning and stuff next to him, and I'm like, what is going on? This is surreal. This is a new experience for me as a reader. Now, on the other hand, kind of on a different track, I do want to talk about the story, and I guess Kikyu.
Okay.
You mentioned before, about her that this felt more like her perspective, and I do think this does count as her route. It could have been done better, but I think she has something going for her, in that.
Fair enough.
In any story, you need to answer like these 3 questions. It's like, who is this character? What do they want? And what is stopping them from getting what they want? Because this is the basic framework of any sort of conflict, and conflict is the structure for any sort of plot. And so you have Kikyu. Who is she? Well, now we know is that she was, I guess, one part of the conjoined twins with her and Shinku from earlier, and now she's stuck in this game where she has to fight to the death. Even though she's just, by all accounts, she wants to be a normal girl. Oh, and moving on to that, what does she want? She makes it clear many times is that she just wants to be a normal girl living a cute life. She wants cute clothes, and she wants to eat at cafes, and to hang out with a pretty boyfriend, and to eat colorful snacks. And, apparently in this game to do that, she needs to keep fighting Shinku for her phantom limbs to just completely regain her body. And what is stopping her is that she has to overcome her fears and, I guess, rise to the challenge. And there's one moment I think you mentioned, I think it was in round 5, where she just makes that declaration of like, now I want to take it all back. I want to take back everything that my sister has always taken from me. And, that's a big moment there. That's when she's setting down her resolve that she's no longer just going to be polite and giving, and she's going to stick up for herself to fight Shinku and take this life that she wants. And she does that in the rest of the rounds, in the fights. It doesn't always go perfectly because, of course, she's, in life or death situations and trying to encounter the brutality of it all. But she does have a character and she does have desires, and by the end of Geminism, Kikyu is different. Not just physically in the body, but, character-wise, she is a different person than she was at the start. She did go on a character journey throughout this story. So I think at the very basic level, Geminism, succeeded on that front, and I do think this is truly, Kikyu's route instead of just her perspective, like you were mentioning. But, everything...
That's absolutely fair enough.
Yeah, okay. Mm-hmm.
Because I'm thinking about how many deeper themes Geminism tried to portray. For better or worse, because majority of them, they don't... they kind of abandon and move on, or maybe leave that for the second part, for Shinku route or perspective, whatever we can call it.
Mm-hmm.
Ultimately, I agree with you. One of the biggest points of Kikyu's perspective was the resolution, her resolve to participate. Because she was, for the most part, for the majority of fights, the hesitant party. The one that didn't know, does she want to hurt her sister? Isn't really keen on the entire premise of the joint happiness, etc., etc. So I wonder if the ultimate, how can I say, parallel between those two routes or perspective would be that the Awasumi Kikyu side struggles with having the resolve to fight, and she needs to find resolve despite having no resources, whereas the opposite party would have the abundance of resources, but something else holding back Shinku. So I look forward. What's the parallel here they'll introduce?
Yeah,
because that was very apparent, especially by the round 5 and 6. There is something stopping Shinku back hard.
Mm-hmm. Early on, in the early fights, Kikyu was the one who was, like you mentioned, much more passive and running, and she was telling Shinku, it's like, hey, we have everything we want, why are you fighting now? And it's not until round 5 when Kikyu makes that declaration is when she realizes, no, they don't have everything they want. She needs to fight and take what she wants in life. And then, like you said, just on the other hand, Shinku seems to have more reservations as the game goes on. And by the end, it's inconsistent, but she definitely seems to be much more on the fence than she was at the beginning. And so, yeah, that is something I'm looking forward to as well, to seeing what's going on through her perspective and what's going on there. But,
Yeah, but then again,
yeah.
I worry that there will be something super edgy and super disappointing. Like, Shinku is like, oh, I was so giving when I was conjoined twin, so I want to take, I want to shaboink, and now I just don't care. I anticipate something stupid like that will happen.
Yeah, I don't have any faith that it's going to pay off. like you said, Kikyu herself had a character arc, and that was, good enough, but everything else going on in Geminism just got completely dropped. It was just a bunch of fun premises, and then they're like, okay, we are not going to expand on any of this now. So I have some big fears that when we get into Shinku's route, we already know there's going to be some H scenes in store for us. And that there's I'm still assuming that we're just not really going to get any answers to all sorts of, cool premises involved.
And I'll now be honest, right? I have the most intrigue with Awasumi right now. And now, switching perspective to follow Shinku and Tsukishiro, I'm like, can we get back to Awasumi because he was cool? There were so many interesting approaches, very stoic nature and kind of mysterious aura around him. Can we get more explanation what's his deal before we switch ships? Like, think about how cool thematically and in a way that fits this perspective was when he had a job, very small job that doesn't pay that much, but instills some sense of purpose into a person. And throughout Awasumi, Kikyo learns like, oh, maybe having a purpose instead of being spoiled by resources is a way to go. And out of all the jobs, holy hell, when they had to assemble toys in capsules, of which some toys came with defects, and she had like, oh, maybe I'm also a defect, right? Okay, deeper meaning with all the mutants, etc. Like, holy shit, that was so cool.
There's several times in Geminism this just seems to have deeper meaning, and you're like, oh man, I'm interested. What kind of themes is this gonna explore? And then it just doesn't.
Exactly, like, oh my god, you're assembling toys, and those toys have too many limbs, so you need to throw out the limbs that are the defect. And like, and a person such as Kikyo that has a very peculiar connection with not having enough limbs can think right about the situation. Exactly. And like, oh, where does it going? And don't worry, it goes absolutely nowhere.
Hey, here's some fish that we had from our childhood. Here's one red one, and here's the black one, and it kind of fits us. And now here in the present day, we're gonna get some more fish, and oh, here's one that kind of reminds me of Awasumi and Sakashiro. Oh, could they all live together? You know, but actually, would the fish be happy in just this one little tank instead of the big wide rivers or the big oceans they were pulled from? And it's like, oh, okay, this is an interesting angle. Does anything happen with it? No.
No. Nope.
To be fair, though, I mean, you mentioned that the ending to Kikyo's route was a little predictable, and I mean, it kind of has to. Because that's the only ending that could have worked for the story. Because basically, you know, if you cut to the chase, basically Kikyo wins the joint happiness. We don't exactly know what happens to Shinku, but presumably she is some sort of dead or incapacitated, and presumably Kikyo is now living a happy, normal life with her complete body. And just from her perspective and from her little character arc, that's how it had to end. It was about her finally, putting her foot down for herself and doing what needed to be done to seize that happiness for herself. And she finally did. And she finally got that normal girl life that she wanted.
I mean, that's the perspective that VNture tries to sell you. We will see if that's exactly how that happened, because the last scene we see before we have the animated ending is a person sitting on a train that is running somewhere with a box on her knees. Who that person is, we don't know. What's in the box, for example, a head, we don't know.
What's in the box?
Do you know? It's a suspiciously big box that could feasibly have head with it.
Okay, I
suppose.
MR, have you seen a movie called Seven? S-E, and then the number 7, E-N. Oh, okay, it's kind of a classic. And at the beginning, there's that scene with the mother and the big box. And I was kind of immature and thought to myself, because it's like, haha, 7 reference. And then we get to the end, and I'm like, oh, I kind of feel messed up at myself for that now. If anyone's listening and they know that movie, then you know what I mean. But anyways, I mean, as for any other endings that could have happened, because, I was thinking about it while reading and while we're leading up to the big ol', climax. And it's just like, any other ending would be cool and there would be twists involved, but it wouldn't have felt satisfying at all. Because, one possibility would have been Shinku winning. And, and their joint happiness cycle just continues on and on with no real end in sight as the two supervisors, laugh about the entertainment involved. That could have been an ending, but, it wouldn't have fit at all with how Geminism was building it up so far.
True.
There could have been some twist involved of like...
You know what?
Oh, yeah.
That's, again, maybe a prediction of the future, but since you mentioned this is how the ending would fit to this perspective from Kikyo's side, then I'll ask you this. What kind of ending fits for the reverse? If now we go to Shinkyo's perspective, knowing how it ends, would it end differently just because the perspective is different? Or will it tread the same ground, completely the same, and she's destined to lose?
I mean, maybe. We haven't gotten that far, so I have no idea how Geminism is going to handle this, whether it's just a different perspective or if it's a completely different route and retelling. But I think that would be interesting if we know the future and if we know how this ends up, you know, that how the story plays out and how we see things from Shinku's perspective, that would have a lot more, I guess, tragedy to it. That would give it a very different flavor than reading Kikyo's route and not knowing what will happen.
Yeah, because the lesson there would be someone goes from a very poor position, but overcomes it and comes out on top, while Shinku's perspective would be someone who's abundant in resources, but over time loses the resolve and ultimately loses everything, right? That would be the story. Oh. And importantly, I wanted to bring, there were no choices in this VN. All of them were meaningless choices.
Mm-hmm.
So that's very important to bring.
Right.
That I don't anticipate, and maybe I might be wrong, by the way, I might be wrong. I anticipate if this trend continues, whichever they choose, there will be one story that they'll stick with. There won't be like Shinku split to her ending or Kikyo's ending in which Shinku loses.
Who knows?
So if they continue the trend, it could be that. So, I don't know, because honestly, both work. Hard to say.
Yeah, which do you think you'd look forward to one more than the other? The whether, you know, on the one hand you would have a linear story or versus we get the Shinku route.
I feel like this is a tough choice for me because I said so multiple times before. I don't like bad endings. Okay, when it comes to endings, I'm kind of a pussy. I like my good endings. Okay, I don't like bad endings. Okay, but at the same time, I appreciate that any story in any game whatsoever that stays away from alternative timelines. If you manage to write a story that has perspectives but the same timeline, I respect that more. So for me, I would way more respect Geminism. It is actually a story about how Shinku loses.
I respect that. Yeah, that sounds super cool, to be honest.
Because that is such a difficult job to do well and satisfyingly. It is so much easier to always change the perspective in such a way that whatever you read right now is the underdog that will win at the end, even if it has the cost of consistency and you have to claim, oh, this is a different timeline.
How it just feels like
the moment you stick. Yeah, exactly. It feels like a couple. If you are consistent and you write a single timeline but different perspective, I respect that way more.
You know, that is impressive, just from a technical standpoint too. Nice. All right, got that to look forward to. Okay, so I guess one last question for us, Emor. Who is your favorite character in Geminism?
Awasumi, hands down.
Did you find a lot of his stoicness funny?
Yeah, and I mean, part of it is also the moment he uttered the first word, I already knew the voice actor and how he'll portray it. I already read the same voice actor in a very similar, aloof, detached way portrayed. I'm like, okay, I'm rubbing my head. Okay, here we go again. Let's go. He's great.
I was assuming, he grew on me. I didn't care much for him at first, but just throughout the story, he grew on me more and more. I respect that, yeah. It's good on the story for,
And
making me warm up to him.
this is also interesting because unlike a lot of scary, stoic mystery men, Awasumi is aware of his position and tries not to stand out. So we had a clash when they visited a mall because he took Kikyo for a shopping date in which she look around and etc. And Awasumi bumps into a kid that starts immediately crying. So he immediately backs away, creates some distance, and he is aware what is happening. He's not like, what's this bullshit? I'm not a monster, or something like that. He doesn't put himself in such a detached position that he's not aware why they portray him such a way. And he's very strategic about it. So he goes to a festival thinking that he has a very good excuse. People thinking that, oh, maybe he's cosplaying as a mummy or something. Like, that's very interesting that he thinks about those certain aspects. Like, damn, that's smart.
Yeah,
Not stupid, not contrived, not convenient. No, he's actually tactical about that.
In the many ways he showed himself capable and considerate of the surroundings and just generally caring about, the other people around him. Yeah, he was pretty cool.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, he was cool. As for me, my favorite character, I would have to say Kikyo, just mostly because it could have been better, but I do like her character journey. She did, to be fair, she did complain a lot throughout the story, and to be fair, a lot of it was justified. But there was still something
reasonable complaints.
Yeah, there's still something endearing about a very much, teenage girl or so, just wanting to live a normal life while still trying to equip herself best she could to be in these life or death fights.
Think about this way. It is understandable the frustration she may feel, feeling how unfair she got dealt how unfair hand. In fit of emotion and rage, she kind of wanted to trash things she had when she retreated to her room. But in the last moment, she refused to give up the gems that she got from Awasumi, because that was her treasure. And a super wholesome fucking moment.
Yeah, that little moment said a lot. Despite how angry she was at everything, she still held back at the last moment to be mature about it and realize, hey, I can't just be destroying this treasured little jewel I have. It's the only real symbol of having a normal, happy life, and it was a gift from Awasumi. And yeah, it was very mature of her.
And there's message into that. Think about how, when it comes to life, the easiest and most tried and true way to get insta-depressed is to compare yourself to others. And that's exactly what happened to her. She was comparing herself to her sister, and through the snapshots she knows of her life, because she doesn't know the larger perspective and context, from the things she knows, she gets depressed.
Especially her comparing herself to Shinku's life and how she apparently has it so much easier and she gets everything she wants and she's living that charmed life that she wants.
Exactly.
It's not easy. Yeah, so all in all, this was our, I guess, spoiler episode of Kikyo's Route. As far as Geminism goes, there was some good parts to it, but overall it left so much on the table, and it's very frustrating and disappointing to reach the end like this. I'm hoping there will be more to it with Shinku's route perspective. We'll find out, and we'll report on our findings later.
Exactly. Yeah, and I'll at least be proud that I counted the limbs and I reached the conclusion, oh yeah, it had to be conjoined twins. And it was conjoined twins.
Okay, you didn't say that. You said that they were like two minds occupying one body, like the two different split personalities.
Yeah, but I told you there are two heads and the other body parts are singular.
Yes,
Anyway,
but you didn't make that. Oh, okay, it's technicality. You were close,
Yeah.
but you don't get full marks.
Okay, I'll take those. Oh my god. Anyway, I think this is it for our episode. Thanks to all our listeners, and we'll be back with more Geminism soon. VNture out.
VNture out.